What is up, everybody? Today we are going to talk about the WNBA and the potential lockout that is coming. So, a lot of moving parts here with the WNBA and the WNBA Players Association as they are trying to figure out what they're going to do about the upcoming season. A deadline has pretty much been placed by the league already, pretty much being this Sunday night, that if they can't strike a deal by Sunday night, that some delays are going to happen to the season. Obviously, they still would have to do their draft and all that kind of stuff. So, the start of the season would essentially get pushed back. Games would start being missed, and it would just start becoming a lockout. So we're going to talk about the facts. So there's two things. Obviously, there's the facts of the situation, and then my opinion, which matters zero, essentially, unless you're interested in it. But first and foremost, we got to talk about the facts. So right now, the two sides can't agree to a deal. Now, I made a little cheat sheet. I try to figure out exactly what's going on and how it's happening. I will talk y'all through it. And in the comments, if you want to red flag something, go right ahead, because it's kind of hard to understand exactly everything that's going on, who's telling the truth or what's going on exactly. So this is what's happening. The WNBA Players Association is asking for 25% essentially in the first year of this deal. It's an 8-year deal that they are trying to negotiate on. They want 25% of the gross revenue. Now, two very important things to be able to tell apart is gross revenue and net revenue. Gross revenue is the money you're going to make up front, right? So that's before you consider any expenses and all that kind of stuff. So the WNBA Players Association, they want 25% of the gross money coming in, which just know that the gross money is going to look like a bigger payday than the net. Think about your paycheck. You might make $500 or $1,000 a week. That is your gross money that you are earning. But now after taxes, you might have $700 left. That's the net revenue that you've made. So with the Players Association, they want that big chunk, that 25% out of the gross, which you might think like, well, that's not a big chunk because, for example, in the NFL, the Players Association, the players essentially get 48.8% and teams get 51.2%. You know, the NBA is a lot closer to this than 25%. However, the biggest problem that is on the side of the WNBA as a league is that the WNBA has yet to really earn a profit, okay? Last year may have been the first time that a few teams earned a profit, but as a league, they're not profitable just yet. And they will get there probably with, judging how the league has been going and projections based on numbers that have been happening. But right now, the fact is the WNBA is just not profitable for owners of teams just yet. Average, by the way, because some teams have returned to profit. Now, the WNBA PA, it can argue attendance is up roughly 48% from last year. Last year from the year prior. So on their side, they're saying this league is growing tremendously. Merch is up 600% in a year. That's a big time jump. Viewership is up 170%. And even networks now like ESPN have just announced that they're going to have a women's Sunday where they will broadcast WNBA games and then WSL, which is the women's soccer league game. So you expect those numbers to continue rising. So the Players Association is saying we deserve more money. Now, the league, on the other hand, what they're offering essentially the cap to go up to $5.75 million in year one, which is a significant jump because the prior cap was just roughly over $1 million. So that's a 5x jump essentially in the first year of this agreement. And by year 8, the last year of this agreement, they're scaling it up to $8.5 million, which would be the amount of money that each team would be able to play with and essentially divide up amongst their rosters. The league, that essentially accounts to 70% of the net revenue. So again, the owners are saying after we pay off all our expenses and everything and take out the money for the taxes or whatnot, we'll still give you 70% of what's left over. So you're going to get actually a pretty good cut. They're saying you're getting 70% while the owners are going to get 30% essentially. the women are not, the PA is not happy about that, right? And the league has to worry about a couple other things. So they've got two new teams this year, so that's expansion. So they got to get those fan bases going. And again, as a league, you're looking out over all these teams, right? And they're going to add 3 more teams by the year 2030. So again, they also, I guess this is more so on the PA side of things. They're saying, hold on a minute, WNBA, you just signed a huge TV deal, which is an 11-year deal with all these TV partners. And that's roughly $200 million that's coming to you per year. So they're saying we deserve more money. Again, to get some perspective, the NFL salary cap, and again, it's a different league, okay? So people need to understand that. Even myself, that I'm comparing leagues, I can't really compare. It's not a fair comparison to the women or to the men of the NFL to compare the two leagues, because they're at completely different timelines of where they're at and the success that they're at. The NFL is king in the U.S. We know it, right? I mean, it's huge. So what happens with the NFL, just to understand these numbers, the NFL salary cap that was just announced, which is what each team is allowed to spend on their players, is $300 million this year. And that is judging off the numbers from last year. The average NFL team takes home $137 million net. That's not gross. So that is after dealing with their expenses and paying for everything that they pay. First class flights, private flights, all that kind of stuff. The facilities, the everything, literally everything, uniforms, whatever, anything you can think of that's an expense. After all of those expenses are taken out, what the average NFL team comes home with, or takes home, the owners, I would say, is $137 million, right? And again, so it's to scale, okay? You got to think about that. So listen, I'm kind of going through this as well when I'm looking at these numbers. It's kind of difficult to follow, okay? And I'm trying to figure out what notes I wrote and what means what, because I just wrote 31% of net revenue. So essentially what I'm gathering here is the players get 48.8% of gross revenue, right? And this is the number right here that the WNBA players want. They want 25%. And you're like, well, that's not near the NFL, right? So if the cap is at 300 million, that's roughly 50% of gross. That means the NFL team, you double the 300, and that's about 600 mil. So 600 mil is the average gross amount, let's say, that the NFL teams take home. And now from that, when you account for the expenses and everything, that leaves you with essentially $437 million total. And now when you do the math, that leaves the players with about 69 to 70% of the net revenue, which is kind of exactly what the league here is offering the Players Association. So again, they're doing the math from almost one side of it, while the women are doing the math from the other end. And it's just kind of looking at statistics from two different sides. And I understand both sides, their arguments. And now these are the numbers. These are the facts. This is what I was able to gather. It's really complicated. But essentially the players are arguing for gross money. They want gross money because I think, and this is where we start mixing into my opinion, I think that they know that the league isn't generating a full profit just yet. So for them, they're trying to guarantee themselves because they know that revenue is coming in. So they want to guarantee that money. That's why they're willing to say, like, all right, we won't take 50% of revenue. We'll just take 25% because they know that is the sure money. That is the sure money that is coming in. But on the owner side of things, they're saying like, yeah. Like, we get that you're giving us a discount on the sure money coming in, but you're completely discounting all the expenses and things that we have to pay for to keep the business running and essentially keep the lights on. And so we are just trying to we'll guarantee you up to 70% of the money that we actually make. Because otherwise, you're asking us to give you money that we don't have. So when it gets to my opinion is that I don't really think that the Players Association essentially is, I think they're thinking about years 5, 6, 7, 8 of the offer and not considering the first 4 years exactly, and how you're asking these owners to keep taking a loss on a league that they've been taking a loss for over 20 years. And it almost feels like to me like the players are trying to jump to a raise that is not quite there just yet. And when usually, in my opinion, if that is what's happening, then the happy medium is to just do a shorter agreement, right? Why are we looking at an 8-year deal? Let's just go ahead and do a 4-year deal. Now, if it's a 4-year deal, if I'm on the owner's side of things, I'm still not going to offer any kind of gross, money, because I'm tired of taking a loss. Like, I want to get paid also. So again, when the women were like at the All-Star game wearing shirts that were saying, pay us what you owe us, to essentially as a message to the league. Well, at that time, factually, the league wasn't getting a profit. So if you want to look at it from that perspective, it's almost like the players actually owed the owners money, which they didn't. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic here, but I'm just saying there is no profit at that point. So that's why it's a little bit complicated. And that's why right now, I mean, the statement that came out from the league, essentially from the Players Association, was essentially them. They had a survey, the WNBA PA survey on league proposal. And it says, would you accept the league's proposal of 50% net revenue? So I guess they're saying it's 50%. Again, the article I read said 70%. So that's why I said at the top, I'm not sure who to believe or what exactly to believe. But sure, if it's 50% net revenue, let's take the PA's word for it. They're saying, would you accept the league's proposal of 50% of net revenue, which is less than 15% of gross revenue in an 8-year deal, or ask the union to keep negotiating? And apparently 84% from this survey said, no, I would not accept 15% and want the union to keep negotiating. A couple things here. 84% from who? We don't know how many players were surveyed. It could have been 11 players, right? So we don't know. And it's, it is what, again, 50% of net revenue, even that part, it's almost like I don't trust the league necessarily when they say, like, how are they defining what the net revenue is going to be if they're not turning a profit yet? So, because what happens if this year ends up being a loss again, right? Which no one expects, but there's so many details that aren't out there. What is the league saying about that? Like, if you're the WNBA, the league, not the Players Association, and say this year, like, how are you setting a salary cap when you don't really know what profits you're going to start to make yet, right? So that's the complicated part that I don't really understand. And people are arguing like, oh, well, 50% is already that's what the NFL and NBA does. No, because they are getting it out of the gross number, from my understanding, not the net revenue. So that is essentially, you could say, the league being slick. But again, different leagues. Teams in the NFL are taking home after expenses $137 million. WNBA teams, I mean, again, I'll look it up. What does the average WNBA team profit per year? Right? And the first thing is WNBA teams do not currently make a profit. Rather, the league has historically operated at a loss, which, with estimates suggesting the league lost around 40 to 50 million in 2024. So despite rising revenue, which averaged roughly 13.2 per franchise in 2023, again, that's revenue. That's money coming in gross prior to all the expenses. High operating costs have kept the league unprofitable for its first 25 to 30 years. So again, it is complicated. And again, my opinion is that they should find a middle ground on a shorter deal. I think the women need to accept that they are not going to, be able to convince ownership to give them that kind of money yet. Again, if it just wouldn't logically make sense, because you're asking the ownership who's been taking a loss on this business to delay and keep taking losses for longer while you're making a profit, because the players obviously are going to be making money. This is their, these are their jobs. This is their bread and butter, is what they're going home to and their paychecks. So you're saying to the owners, hey, I know that you guys haven't made money yet from this, so it's technically a loss investment so far. Push that off another 4 or another whatever, let's say 4 to 5 years, so that we can make more money that we are actually making, that we are profiting, that we are taking home. So I just don't know a world in which that's going to happen. I'll also talk about real quick, Unrivaled is a league that's been a huge success. I mean, huge success. They sold out Barclays Center the other night in Brooklyn, and it looked awesome. It's a 3-on-3 tournament style league that a couple WNBA players have opened up, and it's been doing great, and that is awesome. However, I will mention that big picture wise, it's awesome for the 50 players that are a part of it. And you could argue it's about close to the 50 top players in the WNBA. But what about the rest of them? And again, I'm not knocking the league. You got to start somewhere, and they're starting at a great place. And this gives the players a lot of leverage, because they could look at the owners and say, fine, we'll do a lockout and we'll stick with Unrivaled. I mean, one of their players just took home a $200,000 paycheck, which is more than her yearly salary with the NBA, with the WNBA. So they're saying, why do we need to go back to the WNBA when we can make more from just playing this, Unrivaled league? However, I will say this. If a lockout happens, the people that are going to be hurt the most is the middle to lower class WNBA player. So sure, the Asia Wilsons, the Caitlin Clarks, the Brianna Stewarts, they may be able to still make bank and make good money with Unrivaled. And, they can, take off there and keep that league going. But if there's a lockout, the girls in that middle class, the women, I should say, in that middle class or lower class WNBA player that's not a top superstar and probably not going to make it to the Unrivaled league, they're out of a job, and they haven't been making that much money to take home to be able to take a year off, right? And so it's a tough spot. It's a tough, complicated situation, like all these things are. But this one's tougher because, with the NFL and MLB and NBA, there's huge money on the line. Like if the NFL's on strike, the owners are losing $137 million. So they have more incentive to get the league going and get games played again, right? Whereas the WNBA owners, they're already been losing money. So for them, they're not going to have to actually probably have as many expenses. Now, it's still a loss for them because they invested in these leagues to take off. But for them now, they're not going to have to, like the WNBA now, they fly, in private planes. They're not flying commercial anymore like they used to. So those are all extra expenses. And if you start cutting games, those expenses are not going to have to make, and they're not making money. So they're going to want to be cutting more expenses to take less and less of a loss. So it's a really, really, really important time here for the WNBA as a league if it's going to go anywhere. And if they have a whole lockout for a year, the league might lose the league, because I don't know about the TV contracts. Maybe that 11-year, $200 million per year TV contract, maybe that goes out the window. I don't know what the legality is there. But if you're a network that was planning on hosting WNBA games and now you're not, you might be able to break that contract, and then that hurts the WNBA. And then now at that point, well, now the WNBA owners are not going to want to. They're going to be mad that they lost money, even more money. So it's just super tricky. And I think big picture wise, in good faith, obviously, the PA should accept a reasonable offer. I think right now it is a reasonable offer because of the history of this league. Now, if this is what they're offering after 5 straight years, let's say, of consistent profit, and now it's a profitable league, then then you can argue that's a slap in the face to the players and the Players Association. But right now, I don't see it as a slap in the face. I see it as a league that is on the, it's right there on the edge of taking off. And the owners want to guarantee that it will take off. They don't want to take a chance that what happens if this was the peak. Caitlin Clark just got in, and like it or not, people hate on her, but she is the reason that all these numbers spiked, or 75% of the reason. Yes, there was a talented draft class. Obviously, Angel Reese is a household name. Cameron Brink came in as well, and she was known of course. But there's no one that has affected the WNBA like Caitlin Clark did. So those spikes are huge. People should thank her a lot for that, right? So, and again, the Caitlin Clarks of the world, they'll be fine. If there's a lockout, they'll want her. I mean, heck, Ice Cube wanted her for the Big 3 league, right? He was going to pay her a whole bunch for that. So Unrivaled will gladly have her, assuming the women in that league don't turn their back on her because they're jealous or something. But, those kind of caliber of players, well, they'll be fine. She'll get a payday from Unrivaled, and that league will continue to grow. But again, if 50 players are an Unrivaled, there are, how many players are in the WNBA? 156 active roster spots. So 1/3 of the league is in Unrivaled, right? And let's say you even get it to half. Let's say next year Unrivaled grows dramatically from year 1 to year 2, and now it's 75. Well, 50% of the WNBA is going to be looking for a job, right? And it's just, it reminds me of like when the actors go on strike in Hollywood and everyone forgets about the cameramen and women. Everyone forgets about the sound engineers, about those people that now maybe can't take the hit and are now, stuck without a job because the actors and actresses want a bigger payday. And I think the actors and actresses are in their perfect right to ask for a payday. That's what I'm saying. I'm never going to say count anybody's pockets or tell you shouldn't want more money. I don't care who you are. You could be Elon Musk. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't know your pockets. I don't know what you're spending money on. LeBron is a billionaire. And if LeBron wants a bigger contract, he should want a bigger contract. Like, I'm not going to knock him for that because he's got $1 billion now. And it's like, that's enough. The reason I don't do that is because what's enough? Right? And that is a gray area. And that's why I don't play that. Like, it's black and white with me. Like, if I say LeBron's got enough because he's got $1 billion, what's the number? Is $1 billion enough? Is that the number? Because then if somebody has 900 million, then are we saying that's not enough? So again, everyone's going to have a different, line. If someone's making $1 million and you're like, oh, that's enough, right? Well, then is it fair if you make $100K a year? Is it fair for the person on minimum wage to say that you make enough and that you shouldn't want to raise anymore? So it's all to scale the way I see it. And it's an even ratio. So to me, I'm like, I get it. When people are like, that's so much money. It is so much money, but I'm not going to say that's enough. Like, what's enough? If you don't have a clear-cut definition, which we as a society will never agree on anyway, then you can't play that game, right? Because then somebody could play it with you, assuming you're doing okay. And I just don't think that's right. I don't like to count people's pockets. So again, with the actors and actresses and it hurting essentially the middle to lower class of the TV industry, well, that's what's going on here. I think if the WNBA and the Players Association can't agree to terms. And again, I respect the Players Association wanting to get paid more. I get you. Fight your battle. All for it. Use your leverage. Unrivaled's doing great, so use that leverage. But on the other side, the owners, they're not even making money off of it yet. So if you're going to say like, well, who's being greedy here? Well, it's hard to blame the person that's not making money off it yet and saying that they're the greedy ones just because they have more money and were able to purchase the teams. Like, they're not making money off of it just yet, right? And the players, the Asia Wilsons, they are making money. The ones that are leading the charge here, trying to get paid more, they are making money. They are getting a paycheck with a profit, which the teams and the owners of the teams are not just yet. So that's why I think the Players Association should lean in, think of the greater good of all the players, not just the top players that, can essentially speak and take a lockout, and think of the greater good, because otherwise 60%, 66% of the league is going to be without a job and probably either have to go play overseas or they might have to give up basketball because it's not as lucrative of a career just yet for these women, right? And so we all want it to be, and we all want it to keep growing. And the only way it's going to keep growing is to keep the games on, right? Is to keep pushing, keep playing, keep going. So, I get it, but I think it's time that, there's still a couple days left. I have hope, and I hope that the Players Association and the WNBA can agree on a deal, and the WNBA schedule and season will run as normal. They will get paid more than they've been getting paid, well deserved, because they are growing this league, and fans can continue to come support and grow and bring in more fans to the league. So again, sorry for a long spiel on how it's going down, but I thought I'd talk about it and yeah, try to break it down. Again, it's kind of complicated. So anyway, thanks for watching, if you did watch this whole video. So, all right, but I'll talk to y'all on a different podcast at some point soon. Later.